So in my last video, I shared with you guys a bit of um, some of the stuff I wanted to discuss in Justice League. By the way, I will be doing a spoiler discussion on Justice League, at least the first set live with you guys, uh, possibly tomorrow. So I'm going to ramp it up a little bit. I still have the Sunday to spoiler discussion, but since it's Thanksgiving weekend, I think I better get into it quickly because people are going to go see this movie, and there's many different reasons to go see this movie. It's very rewatchable. But I want to go through something else that I thought this movie pays tribute to, and really, it's an awesome movie. Like I said before, for those of you, of course, this is a spoiler-filled discussion. For those of you who didn't know, this movie really unites Marvel and DC in a beautiful way. Come together means so many things. It's speaking of the world situation where people are divisive and they're to themselves and they want to stay in their groups. It's also speaking about coming together with DC and Marvel, and literally this film is an amalgamation of people from DC and Marvel coming together. The tone of the film, it starts off dark. In the beginning, it's very solemn. The darkness shows the lack of hope by the people. Of course, the heroes in the shadows, they have their hope. And then it escalates into more light. And literally, the film... one thing I want to say about this film, I know I'm sidetracking here, but this film was clearer to see, especially in 2D, than Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman, and Man of Steel. This is the best visual expression of a film I've seen in the DC universe so far, even Suicide Squad. They actually got it so that you could actually discriminate the different figures in 2D. Now in 3D, I thought that it was a little bit more murky, and I think they still need to work on it for the general cinema audience. I'm sure for IMAX it's perfect, but with the general cinema that's not IMAX and you do it in 3D format, I'm not really taking to it. It's not as clear as the 2D. You know, I could see Batman silhouetted in the beginning, and just all his fight scenes and things are much clearer in 2D. And also, I would say the CGI for Superman's lip and his mouth has improved in my fourth viewing. By the way, I've seen it 4 times. Last night I saw it again. But anyway, so I think this is a beautiful film. It's in so many ways. It symbolizes unity or coming together. So I talked about that in the last video. Now, in this video, and I talked about Zack Snyder as well, being the Flash in this movie. Now, let's talk a little bit more about some other beautiful things. So in the beginning, we meet the Justice League. It's devoid of Superman. This was Zack Snyder's vision, and I've been sort of hinting to you guys different aspects of Zack Snyder's films, and that all those aspects are intact in this film. And this film is a continuity from BVS. It's also a sort of follow-up of Wonder Woman at the same time. And one thing about a Zack Snyder film, and this is how you can tell a Zack Snyder film, the dialogue as well as the visual imagery always has multiple meanings. And this film is no different to any other Zack Snyder film. It has multiple meanings by some of the things that are said in the film. And there's a lot of symbology. Now, whereas sometimes it is nuanced, sometimes it is very overt, and that's a Zack Snyder film. And that's one of the things I love about Zack Snyder. He's an incredible director, and his films are very rich. And this film is no different to the other films, even though it has more or less a streamlined storyline. But there's a lot of symbolism and metaphors, and there's a lot of things to get in a Zack Snyder film. And this film will not let you down. That's why it's still repeatable in its viewings. Now, as I said before I probably didn't say it in the other video. But I will say it now. Yes, I would love to see Zack Snyder's director cut. What his full project would have looked like. I know that if Junkie XL, for instance, was doing the tracks, and we would get a different feel, because I think the Pet Cemetery and all the horror elements that they have in this film are kind of sort of diluted down a bit by not Joss Whedon, the other guy, Danny Elfman's score. So I understand that. But I think Danny Elfman brought a score that the casual moviegoer would enjoy a lot more than, say, the hardcore DC fans. I, for instance, would have loved to hear the Man of Steel theme in the movie playing. That theme that was in the sneak peek trailers. Dun, 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 right? Justice League. It's beautiful. But, you have different feels for different things. Danny Elfman is just fine. Perfect. Because how they begin the movie and the tone they're looking for in the movie is a Zack Snyder tone, but now with a much more, the difference is a sort of majestic, magical theatrics, it's called. Danny Elfman is known for magical theatrics. He still kept the Junkie XL sort of tension and thriller aspects to it when it was necessary. So a lot of Junkie XL's tension on suspense-filled moments were kept, but Danny Elfman's themes, like the Batman theme and stuff, he worked in those things. I think Danny Elfman had a ball because he was able to mix things from the past, he was mixed things from the present, he was able to mix things that he has, that his projects that he did, into the project, and I think that's why he's so proud. And the cool thing about this, again, is the possibility of Marvel and DC at some point in time crossing each other's paths. So what this movie does, which I guess it was Providence, and it's beginning with a rocky start, just like the movie. The movie itself begins with a rocky start. It begins in a dark place. And this movie starts off in its box office in a rocky start, with the critics. And I think that we just have to keep hope, or as I say, open our minds to positive possibilities with this film. So as fans who enjoyed this film immensely and understand the value behind it, let's rally behind it to make sure it's very successful. And of course, if it is successful, we can get that Snyder Cut. So obviously, I would love to see a Snyder Cut. I mean, Zack Snyder, I don't know if he's in the mindset to finish off this movie, this project. His vision's up on the screen. It's so if he wants to fully actualize his full, complete project. But you guys are going to realize that there's a lot of things, I'm really going off on a tangent here. I really should be focused on something else, but nonetheless. If you notice, Joss Whedon actually did more of the serious moments of the film, and Zack Snyder was pretty much the guy who was messing around with the comedy, except for the one where Flash goes on top of Wonder Woman, which I think was a Whedon moment. Other than that, I think Whedon very rarely had anything to do with the humor of this film. A lot of that humor was Zack Snyder's humor. How do I know that? I looked at a lot of behind-the-scenes footage. I listened to the actors talk about who was actually behaving more Whedon-y and who was behaving more like Zack. So it's like a role reversal, which is pretty interesting. So some of the really dramatic moments in this film, and even some of the very, you know that when Superman said to Batman, "Do you bleed?" That was actually Joss Whedon who redirected that. It was actually done by Zack initially, I'm sure, directing it, but I guess it was too dark. So Whedon, or not, actually, maybe it was, but Zack had a little bit more story behind what was supposed to happen, and Whedon took it and boiled it down and used the "Do you bleed" back at Batman. And it's amazing because that was what Batman said to Superman in Batman v Superman. It's superficial, but there's a deeper meaning to it. Everything with Zack Snyder's films are deeper. So why did Superman say to Batman, "Do you bleed," in Justice League, whereas in Batman v Superman he didn't say Batman said to him, "Do you bleed?" At the time when Batman said it to Superman, he was saying, "Are you human? Do you bleed?" As well as he's saying to him, "If you bleed, I'm going to find a way to make you bleed. And what is your weakness?" That's what Batman's asking him. And then he says, "You will." With Superman accosts Batman, remembers their confrontation. And remember, if you guys ever watched Pet Sematary, it's a 1987 film. There's Pet Sematary 2 as well. And in essence, these people were reviving their beloved dead animals. And by doing so, the animals would come back without a soul, and also some other soulless beings would come back, ghosts and stuff, and they would see these ghosts. And eventually the guy, because he disrupted everything, bad things happened to him and his family, and they would see ghosts and apparitions and stuff. And it's kind of like he unlocked the netherworld, or the underworld, or the world of the dead. And so now he buried a dead cat a certain time, and the cat came back. Right? And the cat was moving all around, and he was like, "How could this cat be?" So he found out the way to revive the dead. That's what really basically he did. And he kind of made this demonic pact. So what happened is, when his son got knocked over by a truck, he was mourning his son, and he decided he was going to make this pact to bring back his son to life. And by doing so, he kind of brought back some of the dead people who were kind of ghosts. He was seeing them and stuff, and they came back as well. And they came back without their souls. So the joke in Justice League that Barry Allen's talking about, is he going to come back like a normal comeback, or is he going to come back like a Pet Sematary comeback? It was a shout out to Pet Sematary. Now, why did I say all of that? Because Superman, when he's speaking to Batman, and he says, "Do you bleed?" They're wondering if, they were arguing that Superman might come back. If we revive him, he may come back, but his soul may not come back. That's what Aquaman was arguing, which is why Flash was like Pet Sematary kind of way. So when Superman, and the Batman said he had to have a contingency plan. So the plan was to use Lois Lane to make his heart focus back into something he loves, so he could tap into that instead of just going with whatever emotional feeling he meets. Because the first emotional feeling he had was antagonism to the Justice League because of Cyborg trying to fire him, and he was a little bit crazy because his mind was all over the place. He just got revived, and he couldn't control his senses and stuff, right? So he was disoriented. So, in short, when Superman looks at Batman and says, "Do you bleed?" that's what he remembers about Batman, which is a negative thing. And he lifts Batman up in the head by his skull. He's holding Batman's skull. He's basically squeezing all the way through Batman's muscles to his skull, which was really crazy how Zack Snyder got that picture. And that's Zack Snyder all the way. Some dialogue Joss Whedon smashes into there. You can see it in the CG, but the CG is kind of getting harder to pick up because they're fixing up the CG really well. So when the CG's fixed, I don't know if you can tell where Zack directed and where Josh directed. You're not going to be able to tell. But anyway, so yes, so he says, "Do you bleed?" Superman asks Batman, "Do you bleed?" In this case, it's a diabolical question. Okay, he means he's telling Batman, he's reminding Batman of what Batman said to him. So he says, "I remember you," and he remembers him threatening him, and he picks him up. And he says, "Do you bleed?" And Superman is basically in evil mode, okay? And Batman is like, he said, "Why did you bring me back?" And Batman was like, "We had to." And he's like, "You won't let me die. You won't let me live. You won't let me die. Do you bleed?" It's like, he said, the world needs you. And then he looks at him and he says, "But the world doesn't need you." I'm like, God damn! That's some cool shit, man. I mean, Superman, just imagine if Superman really does turn evil. Damn! We're in deep trouble, man. We're in deep trouble. So Superman starts by he comes out of the darkness into the light, but Superman himself is dark. It's just a beautiful part of this picture here that Joss Whedon captured. Again, another Zack Snyder. God damn it, Zack Snyder's so good. So Superman starts off dark. He's confused. He's in the dark. He's confused. He doesn't know what's going on. And then, of course, Batman asks to bring out the big gun, which was Lois Lane. And Lois Lane helps him to bring him into the life. He feels the love. His emotions start to focus in because Lois has always been his focus. Remember, when he was discouraged with mankind, he remembered Lois. He focused in. When he snapped Zod's neck, Lois was there. He was able to focus in. When he was confused about what he was all about and supposed to do, Lois would always be there to help him focus in. She helped him focus in. When she was falling with the building, he was able to save her. But as I said before, Lois always saves Superman. It's not a one-way street. In Batman v Superman, we see it's a symbiotic relationship, which goes into symbiosis. We don't want to talk about symbiosis in this film yet. We're not ready for that. All right, that metaphor is big in this film because that's what makes the hope in this film beyond Superman. And that's just a whole other discussion for another day. But that symbiotic relationship they have with each other, this mutual needing of each other, this mutual saving of each other. Lois, again, is Superman's savior. You remember, in the movie, man, I'm going so deep right now. Bruce Wayne says that the world needs Superman and the team needs Clark. And then Alfred asks Bruce Wayne, he says, But who does Clark need? He's resting in peace. And then Bruce says he'll get over it. But the point is, what does Clark need? And Bruce knew what Clark needed. He needed Lewis. Clark needs Lewis to focus in and have a sense of and enhance his values. His conversation with his father on the mountain, the dead father on the mountain, was to help him focus back in on the people who believe in him. And Lewis believed in Clark. And so those minimalistic lines, another Zack Snyder, Chris Terrio trait, where he said, you won't let me live, you won't let me die. Do you bleed? Do you bleed is it's saying, are you human or are you a vampire? Are you human? So when he talks to Batman, remember Batman says, Superman's more human than I am. And now Superman confronts Batman because he says, do you bleed, after Batman tries to get him back to say the world needs Superman. They need you. And he's like, the world doesn't need you. And it's really cool because it's ideological and there's so many things going on here. So many layers to what Superman said to Batman. It's crazy. Okay? A Zack Snyder film, folks. Zack Snyder film. So for those of you you thought, I think a lot of you got engrossed into the story because this story pulls you in and you get carried away with the storyline, but you're not really reflecting on things. And again, in a way, it's because the story is moving along so quickly that you don't really get the moment to really process what you're seeing. And me, I'm a guy, I stay alert in a movie, so I'm really picking up things and I'm taking note of stuff deeply in my soul. So it was like when I heard Superman say, do you bleed? Superman was saying to Bruce Wayne, have you got in touch with your humanity? He's challenging him almost. And Superman at that point he's not really good at that point in time. His essence is not there yet. And Lewis kind of focuses him in, and you see him just discard Clark. He discards Bruce Wayne, Batman, as if he's just a rag doll. He just throws him aside. And you see how powerful Superman is and how dangerous he could be, and why in the Flashpoint movie, if Superman is evil, god damn it, man. You saw what happened in the dream. I can see why Bruce Wayne had nightmares. But this is the other interesting thing, which is a follow-up from BVS. You heard Diana say to Bruce, he could have killed you out there. And he said that was a risk I was willing to take. For the first time, you see that Batman embraces his death. He had a nightmare about it in BVS, where Superman punches a hole through his chest and pulls out his heart, right? And indeed, Superman actually did that in the movie, in a metaphor. He touched Batman's heart and pulled out his stony heart and replaced it with a heart of flesh when he told him, save Martha. That Superman died, and of course Batman was guilty about it, and he was suicidal a little bit. And that he felt like he failed Superman at the end of BVS. So here he was bringing back Superman, and Diana, they discuss it about his guilt and everything. And you see he's willing to die so that Superman could bring that beacon of hope, even though Superman's not altogether there right now in his head, which is something Batman's very familiar with. And in Justice League, you hear Aquaman repeat it over and over. Dressed like a bat. You're out of your mind, Bruce Wayne. He says it over and over and over in the movie because Batman ain't all there. He's a little crazy. And true to form, he was on a death mission. He was about to kill himself again when he was going up against the tower to take it out so that the Justice League could take out Steppenwolf. Aquaman was cool with it. Cyborg was cool with it. They were going to roll on that and didn't care about Batman. And again, Diana once again is the person who's thinking about him. She had saved his life against Doomsday. She was the one that opened his eyes to metahumans and that they don't have to all be bad. He was attracted to her from the beginning. He still is attracted to her in some way, but he doesn't want he doesn't want to go that route, even though Alfred keeps on trying to push something. Alfred just wants to see a relationship of somebody, get somebody hooked up. Alfred's so desperate, man. You know, they were talking about, you know, when Louis Lane's mother, Amy Adams, the actress is playing Louis Lane's mother. Amy Adams is Louis Lane. When she says, "You're so thirsty," that was a funny joke, right? But I think Alfred's thirsty. And my point being, he's thirsty for Bruce Wayne to get hooked up with somebody and married. He really wants to see that. And he wants him to have kids and stuff like that. Alfred has a complex in him. I don't know if you guys picked that up, but now in this Justice League movie, it's interesting that the principal characters, nobody really dies of principal characters. We had some Amazons die, we had some humans die in this movie, but no principal characters actually died in this movie, which was pretty interesting. It's the first DCEU movie where no principal characters actually died. Well, there were some principal characters that died in the beginning of the movie, Green Lanterns and some Amazons and some Atlanteans and so on, but guards and that kind of thing. But when it comes to like principal characters, no principal character died, which I thought was very, very interesting. Now, they really wanted to, I think they originally wanted to kill Cyborg, but I thought that would not pay off because it's very hard to kill Cyborg. You can't, it's not easy. It's not easy to kill Cyborg. Cyborg's a machine and a human, but he's not just a machine. He's a living entity. There's an extra living entity in him. That's why he's not able to control himself enough, and he modifies all the while. Cyborg is a symbiote, so we talk about symbiosis again in there. Man, I'm going off. I'm so going off what I wanted to plan to say, but it's all good. I mean, we're talking Justice League. That's what it is. So anyway, let me try and get back on course. So what was I talking about? I can't remember. This movie, yeah. So, oh yeah, right. Okay. So Justice League is really a unique film in that it goes all the way back to Super Friends. And that's something that the Flash would be happy to hear because the Flash wants friends, and Zack Snyder's a friendly guy, and Zack Snyder likes being friendly to people, and he likes unity, and he likes, and he's a geek, and you know, Zack's all about working together. So here we have Super Friends, and you can see they're hand in hand here. And the cool thing about that is reflected in the cast of Justice League here. You can see they're all hand in hand with each other, just like Super Friends. You don't believe me? Look at it. Watch again. Yeah, let me zoom in on them. See, they're locked hand in hand. Not cool? I thought so. And they do it again. But another thing is, if you look at, and this is from way back in the day. If you look at these characters, you'll see that Wonder Woman is always in the center of them. So some way back, Wonder Woman used to be the center and one of the main leaders. Even though she was a secretary of the Justice League here, she was always a central figure. And she is no different here. She is in the center of the Justice League here. She's again the central figure here in the cast. And I just wanted to show you guys something else. This is Justice League, the animated series. I think this might be Justice League Unlimited. I'm not too sure. And you see the Justice League members walking towards the camera, and bam! How do you like that? They imitated right there as well. Again, Wonder Woman being the central focus. It's very important. And there's a history to this. In the comics, the same thing. Alright? Wonder Woman being the central focus. Here she is again in the central focus. This was the very first Justice League poster, and she was again the central focus of this poster, which I thought was pretty awesome. Alright? So she's a key figure, and she's the glue that brings the Justice League together. You guys could clearly see that. She was the one, and that's why Batman was confronting her, like, why don't you want to be the leader of this group? And he really pressed her on it. And I mean, he was pretty nasty, but that's Batman. He was pretty nasty with her, in terms of, hey, for 100 years after you, Steve Trevor, I never heard of you since 100 years. So please, if you was grieving, Steve Trevor, you chilled, all right? Don't be telling me about not wanting to resurrect Superman. You know, he was like that. He was really nasty. Even I heard Cyborg say, okay, well, I was crunching the numbers while you were being an asshole. But that's Batman. Batman in his core is not a nice guy. He's uncouth, he's rude. He pushes people to the limit. You know, even when he was the leader of the Bat family, you know, Robin and so on. Nightwing left him because he was just so callous and hard. He push you, push you, push you, push you. That was Batman. So I thought that Ben Affleck really played up Batman perfectly in this film. That's Batman. And yeah, I mean, that's just Batman. That's how Batman is. All right. And again, Wonder Woman is a central figure in the Justice League animated series. And she is fantastic. She is fabulous. She is dread. She's everything. You know what I mean? She was... You can see the key members of the Trinity are played up. So that... And then we have... here she is again as the leader of the Justice League as they were going down into the Batcave. And the Flash, she just loved the Batcave and everything. Behind the scenes footage. But also... One of the key members of the Justice League is Superman. When Superman appears on the scene in this movie, yo, you know, I mean, let me just say, the best hero in this entire movie was Superman. Superman stole the show. People were talking about Flash. People were talking about who else were they talking about? Wonder Woman. Man, forget them. Superman. This was Superman. I mean, he had his superpowers and everything. It was, oh man. Woo. Yeah, Superman. Superman showed up in this show. Henry Cavill played Superman. That is Superman from the animated series. I know that ain't Christopher Reeve's Superman, but it sure as hell is Superman. Superman, that is Superman. Shoot. That's Superman, man. That's Superman. Yo, that's what Superman made this movie. I'm not gonna lie. Superman is the symbol of hope. Man, that was Superman. I mean, I don't know how else to say this. But when Superman showed up, and of course Superman has been featured as a major player in the Justice League. Then we had Batman. Batman is featured in some of the early portraits of the Justice League as well. See Batman here as a central figure. So the Trinity has been featured as central figures in the Justice League here. The Trinity. There's the Justice League Unlimited, and you see them, they're always usually together. And at the end of the film, we see the Trinity together. Batman, Superman, we see everybody. We see the whole entire Justice League. And then they zoom in to the Trinity, where each person speaks a certain kind of way and denotes their personality. So that's all pretty awesome. And it's just that iconic shot of the Justice League, you're looking up at them. That's exactly like the comic book artist. I forgot his name. Actually, we'll come to that in a minute. But and it also, oh my God, this movie ended just like the Justice League animated series, whether it's Justice League Unlimited or Justice League 2001. It really paid tribute. It paid tribute to the original Justice League animated series, which is why I love Zack Snyder. And he put it on the date of the original, the November the 17th, which was the original debut date of the original Justice League animated series. Oh my gosh, this movie really shouted out to that. And even the words that Henry Cavill's Superman say, you know, where he said, I didn't want to miss this for the world, or whatever he said, is exactly what Superman would say and what he said in one of the Justice League animated series episodes, which is crazy, man. Like, and even how Batman answered and how Wonder Woman talked, it was just so cool, man. It was just, oh my God, that was just a fan moment. So yeah, the Trinity was on display. You know, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and they all display their power levels, and they all display what they really are. And then, you know, some people were saying that Batman wasn't a detective, or he wasn't behaving like a detective in this movie. Hell no. He was a detective in this movie. That's why he was following the parademons. That's why he was tracking down the mother boxes. He didn't know they were called mother boxes, of course. He didn't know what they contained. And it isn't like he could pull that out his ass and say, oh, I know what the mother boxes contain. Power! He wouldn't know that. He was getting from Lex Luthor's notes, of course. So Diana helped him out with that and the history behind it. He was trying to find the history from Aquaman. Aquaman wouldn't talk to him. So, I mean, he's a great detective, though. I give him his props, man. I give him his props. But the cool thing about this is actually the follow-up of BVS again. I'm trying to stay on course here, and I am being on course now. BVS had the Trinity, and the first time we saw them on the screen together, and Wonder Woman is Wonder Woman, man. She fights to the death. She fights to the end. She could get her ass kicked. She comes back and fights. And that was what we saw again in Justice League. She was just kept on fighting Steppenwolf. It didn't matter if she was getting her ass kicked. She would come back and fight, and she can really fight, man. So, it was really cool. But again, like I said to you guys, I thought Steppenwolf was a hell of a villain and a threat. Because, I mean, if you didn't have Superman, they would have had a tough time with Steppenwolf. I don't know if they would have even pushed him off, because I don't think they were powerful enough as he was. But Superman, man, oh my God. Superman beat that guy like if he was nothing. I mean, Superman, dang! Superman is on another level of strength, and that's just exactly how he is in the Justice League. But yeah, we had seen the Trinity on the screen for the first time. I advise you guys, once you can get a copy of this Justice League movie, or what you can do, if you're a real DCEU fan again, I'm talking to only real DCEU fans, you will want to watch Man of Steel again, you will want to watch Batman v Superman, and you will definitely want to watch Wonder Woman again, and then just finish it off by going into the cinema and watching Justice League on IMAX or something. By the way, I gotta say, like I said, the visual effects of this movie are on point now. And I love the intro scene with Batman fighting that burglar that came off on the roof. Crazy, man. Crazy. Loved it. I loved it. I loved the choreography and everything. I heard people say Batman was falling down in slow motion. Well, yeah, you used slow mo so you could see that he was shooting out the netting to pin down the parademon, all right? So, of course it's going to be slow-mo. If he did it in real motion, you wouldn't know what he was doing. That's why Zack slows down things sometimes. And, oh, gosh. Wonder Woman blocking those bullets. And then she spins. And she blocks again. Oh, my God. Just like, that's straight out of the animated series, Justice League. I'm like, oh, my gosh. Zack Snyder. I fanboyed out like 100 million different ways. But, yeah, it was crazy, man. And, to see the original Trinity, now they're kind of satisfied. Before, they were facing adversity. One of them died and everything. And, they had just formed together kind of like. And it's still relatively new with each other. But they kind of know each other pretty well now. And it's just cool that Batman, he misses Superman. And one of the funny things in the movie at the end is when Superman says, I know you didn't bring me back because you like me. Because they still have a little rift between them, and Batman's like, "But I didn't say I didn't," and he was going to finish his sentence by saying, "I didn't say I didn't like you," But it's really funny how Superman, man, he's just so off the charts. Now I don't know if he's working for the Daily Planet anymore. At the end of the movie, it seems as though he's gone back to his job. I hope not, because they saw him dead, So I'm hoping there's some kind of solution to this problem. Come on now. Unless he's revealed to the whole world that he's Superman, but he hasn't, because you see him in normal civilian clothing and then he rips it open and stuff. So he probably hasn't told the world he's Superman. But whenever he's Superman, he's visible to everybody, So we'll see how that actually works out. Wonder Woman's walking among people and talking to kids and stuff, and that's kind of cool. And I just want to know if she's telling everybody she's Diana or what. I don't know. I'd like to see in the next movie. There's a lot of open-ended things at the end of Justice League. Like, where are the mother boxes? What do they do with them? Etc., 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 etc. So, we started off with the Justice League. Again, this is Batman-centric. You can see Batman is the center of everything here. Wonder Woman is the center of everything here. So, I think this was the general plan by Zack Snyder to feature Wonder Woman. To complete her arc. We started to see the beginning of her arc in Batman v Superman. It continued on in Wonder Woman, and then it sort of completes itself in Justice League, which is really awesome. Her coming full circle, coming out the shadows, overcoming her fears. And there's a lot of stuff about fear and courage that keeps on bouncing around in this movie. And I haven't really gone into. I've written down a lot of concepts. I have Jeez and ages. I got good God, I got 20-something concepts that Zack Snyder went through in this movie. There's all sorts of topics to cover here. It's ridiculous. So, and I seem to be getting more of them as I go through the movie. Some of them are concepts that started off in Man of Steel and BVS and developed in Wonder Woman. Some of them are a merge of concepts. The cool thing about this film is it's a coming together of Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Wonder Woman. And I understood why Zack Snyder inserted Wonder Woman in between. This was a plan all along, I believe. It was fluid in that, like Hope, it's a river. It was fluid in the sense that it was changing all the time. But you could see that Zack had a plan for the DCEU way beyond Justice League. And Justice League was supposed to launch these other characters. And that's why this movie has to succeed, guys, because as much as people, the media is saying there's going to be a shift in tone, and no, we're not going to get these children-like movies. I hope not. Maybe there'll be movies that kids can watch too, as well as adults, because kids need the superheroes to be inspired by. So I can understand Warner Bros. Going that route, but I don't expect them to sacrifice the realism and the groundedness of these characters at any point in time. And I think Zack Snyder was going for that as well. He was trying to get it so little kids could enjoy it, but yet keep the reality of our world intact. Keep the darkness of our world intact. Because things are not perfect. It's not an airy-fairy, fantastical world. And that's the problem with some of the other movies. It's not grounded in reality. It's just about this team or whatever, and we don't know what the world is like. And these people, do they have any problems in their individual lives? They don't speak about these things. But in this movie, there are the challenges of these characters, and then we have to see how they balance their individual lives, their normal working lives, with their superhero lives. I think the CW is trying to tackle that some ways with Supergirl. And I thought that Spider-Man, the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man, tried to tackle that, the everyday life of Spider-Man and his superhero life, his alter ego. So I thought that was really cool with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Alright, so the beauty of this thing, as you can see here, when you look at the Justice League here, you're not seeing Superman. But this movie was all about the ideals of Superman. And that's just why Batman was trying to recruit the team, and Batman's a loner. So it was really a challenge for Batman to do that and somehow inspire people. And thankfully he had Wonder Woman on the team, because she's the one that really... he was also lucky he had Barry Allen, because Barry Allen took to him just because of who he was. And Barry Allen just hit off with Batman immediately. Batman didn't have to do nothing. After he threw his calling card, showed the Batarang, and showed, I'm Batman. That was it. Barry Allen was sold on it. Because most people never seen Batman, okay? Arthur Curry never saw Batman. Nobody. It was just this mythical legend. And then we have Wonder Woman, and she was able to track down Victor Stone. What I was wondering is, how she knew his name was Victor Stone? How does she know things sometimes that Batman never revealed to her? And I could only assume that she keeps her eye on Batman, and she's following his movements. Because as you can see, she found Batman. She found where Bruce Wayne lives. Okay? She had never, let's see. No, she had never been, as far as we know, on screen. She'd never been where Bruce Wayne was. So how'd she find him? You know what I'm saying? So it's really interesting. But I heard that Alfred say you have her number, that Batman has Diana's number, and that Diana was all the way in England, right? And she came across from England to America after she saw the signal, showing that the world is invaded. So it's just very interesting, this movie. And because of this, now you're seeing here the light versus the darkness. There's a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of things going on here. I can't go through every single one of them. But if you look at the size of the heads of these guys, it tells you something about their power levels. Aquaman is a very powerful being, and you see him actually strike back Steppenwolf as he's defeating him, and Steppenwolf goes into this monologue about how he's the end of all worlds, and then I suppose he was kind of shocked that these few people are defeating him, these metahumans. So Aquaman knocks him back, and then Superman, when he tries to attack, Superman basically freezes his battle axe, and then Diana smashes it in pieces. And he's just so overwhelmed with fear for these guys that he gives off pheromones, and you hear Aquaman say, "You smell that?" And of course, the guy to put the dagger in the coffin is Batman, who is the least powerful of the group. I think the only guy that's less powerful than him is the Flash. And Batman says, "That's fear." and the parademons are just going on him. It was sick though. You don't know if he's dead though. He gets boom tubed out of there. But yeah, the missing person, the embodiment of everything that they're speaking about. You cannot save the world alone. Hope, light, that embodiment. That's why Batman said, "We are not enough. We're not enough. We need Superman." And Superman came back. There was a little bit of Pet Cemetery stuff going on, and then Superman got his mind right, and man, Superman gets his mind right. You may ask yourself, well, how did Superman find Steppenwolf? How did he find the Justice League? He can hear very well. If you remember, he heard his mother coming in the car, and he said to Lewis, "You called her, or you brought her here, or she's coming," something like that. Which was really cool because he has super hearing. He can hear it from very far away. And he's focused. Remember, he has to focus in on things. Remember, his mother told him he has to focus. He said to General Zod, "My parents taught me how to focus on things I want to see." So at the time when he came back from the grave, he couldn't focus in on all things. He was kind of confused. He was a little bit delusional. He didn't know who the different people were. And so that's why he was still. But as soon as he saw Lewis, he focused in on Lucas, and it was okay. He focused in on his mother. And man, his mother was overcome. She was really happy to see him. You can see she was breaking down, crying and stuff. So that was pretty cool. Alright, so yeah, Superman comes back on the scene, and you know, Superman is so powerful, and this is what I was saying. Alex Ross painting, that's the thing. So if we look at the Alex Ross painting here, they are in the order that they are in the painting here, which is so cool. You got the Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, and the Flash. Cyborg's missing. Alright, I showed you guys this before. I just find it so awesome though. I want to show you again. Superman looks so sick, man. Look how buff this dude looks. Man, gosh darn it. Love it. Now the powers of Superman. This is how powerful Superman is in Justice League. He just plucks Gorilla Grodd back into a goalpost. That's how powerful he is. And we learned that he's more powerful than a planet. He's got even more strength and power than a planet in Justice League. And it really shows. Look at that. I always thought that Aquaman was around Superman's power level. Hell no. Here's Superman fighting against Darkseid. Boom. Or is it Mongol? I think that's Mongol. Yeah, that's Mongol. I thought it was Darkseid. That's Mongol. And look how fast he is. So he punches Mongol, and he ends up ahead of Mongol, and then he punches him down into the ground. That's how powerful Superman is. Okay, it's on a whole freaking other level. I think that's Mongol though. I thought it was Darkseid, but I think that's Mongol. He's beating up. So that's how powerful Superman is. So it's not a surprise that when we saw him fighting against the Justice League, how he handled Wonder Woman. Not to say that Wonder Woman doesn't handle the stories, okay? Wonder Woman did, once upon a time, have a little upper hand on Superman because she's got a lot more technique and she's a better fighter than Superman in terms of skill. But in terms of power, forget it. Superman's got serious power. And you saw him headbutt Wonder Woman into the ground. I was like, frickin' A. But she doesn't stop fighting, though. She'll take you on. She'll take you on. But, man, they really did Superman right in those final scenes where he was fighting all the Justice League. And then he took on all the Justice League. I mean, he just flung them all off. And the Flash was trying to run by him and do something. That wasn't happening either because he got super speed, too. He's got super speed. Wonder Woman got super speed. Aquaman got super speed. They all got super speed, but Superman's got a decent amount of super speed. He can catch up with the Flash some, at least. Flash doesn't know the Speed Force. Doesn't know how to use the Speed Force to its optimum yet. So, and then I wanted to talk to you guys about Wonder Woman. I had so much to say. So here's beautiful Diana, captured by Gal Gadot. And look at this, man. Look at this. Look at her here. She literally captures the essence of Wonder Woman. This is so beautiful, it's not funny. And of course, Wonder Woman is very beautiful. That goes without saying. And So there's Gal. Here she is again. Here is Wonder Woman. So that's why I said I don't see Gal as Gal. I don't even see Gal here. I just see Wonder Woman, which is weird. Nothing like it. It's crazy. I just didn't like how they had Barry Allen on top of her. I didn't like that. I didn't like that. They need to scrap that from the movie. But other than that, because you need to respect Wonder Woman. She would kick your ass. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't like that part, and I heard Joss Whedon was responsible for that part, and that's the only part of the movie I did not really personally, tastefully like. I didn't mind when Superman said, I take it back, I wish I was dead. That was funny because even Cyborg laughed at it, and he was like, man, even my feet hurt. We know Superman didn't mean he wished he was dead. He's just saying he's in so much pain at the point in time. And that's actually something that Superman would say from the comics, because he's laughing while he's in great pain. That's what he's basically saying. So I get it. I mean, I can, that joke is passable. I think the other one where they disrespected one, because Wonder Woman is not somebody to disrespect. Like, nobody, I know that perverted people have her as a sex object, and she's okay. Let's be real here. Wonder Woman's sexy. Okay, she's beautiful. Okay, but you don't disrespect Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman will kick your ass. Okay, seriously, she would beat the shit out of you. So I never really, I always saw her as someone you respect, and so I didn't like what they did to her in the movie. But there's another beautiful thing that I wanted to say. I didn't quite get the photo I was looking for here, but you notice she has this sort of red cape on her here. It's not really a cape I was looking for, but anyway, this is her mother, Hippolyta, when she was born, and you see again this red sort of drape here in her armored uniform. Well, in the movie, Wonder Woman has that drape, but this is actually from Justice League, the animated series. Diana actually wears something like this in Justice League, the animated series. I just can't find the snapshot of it or the video of it to show you guys. But she literally wears something like this on Themyscira, I think it is, when she's facing Queen Hippolyta, and also when she's with the Justice League in her regal outfit, she actually wears something like this. So I thought this was a cool touch and a callback. I don't know if it was Whedon's call. I don't know if it was Affleck's call. I'm not Affleck. I mean Snyder's call to do this. It feels like it could be either one of them. But this is awesome. And by the way, shout out to you, John King, for this photo. Shout out to John King for this photo. This is really awesome. So, Zack Snyder. Man. Oh my gosh. So much to say about Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder, man. Zack Snyder made a movie that is awesome. It's incredible. And Joss Whedon did little touches up here and there. He truncated things. He chopped out stuff and so. But basically, the film you watched was a Zack Snyder film. The message that Zack Snyder was trying to send is the message of hope. It's the message of hope in a world where it seems as if everything is going hopelessly in the wrong direction. And there's a lot of despair and cynicism. That was the essence of this movie, okay? Now, this movie does not ignore the realities of our world. That's what I like about this movie. Thor Ragnarok, it's good. It's good entertainment. It's very nice and relaxing entertainment. But it trivializes the realities of the world that Thor is trying to save, Asgard. The only person I thought who was actually putting some sort of solemnness and seriousness to the situation that was happening at Asgard was Idris Elba and his character. I think no other characters really brought that seriousness to this movie, which was a comedy. And so, like I said, the stakes and the tension wasn't there. In this movie, you feel the tension throughout. Even when there's humor in this movie, it's not a comedy at all. Some moments are kind of funny when the little girl pulls out the bug spray. By the way, I was wondering, why didn't the parademons burst into the house and feed off the people? They must have been smelling that fear. So why weren't they bursting into the houses and hurting the people? Maybe because, I don't know. That's a good question. I still didn't know why. I mean, they did board up the house, but I mean, the parademons smell fear. That's what they do. They feed off of fear. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. But other than that, and the community itself, I mean, they were on the boundaries, unless the parademons were busy doing what they were doing. But even so, I saw a parademon look at the child, and they ran back, and the father had the gun. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. You saw other families from the village escaping and running away as well. I'm not quite sure what happened in that story. But it really rang true like a horror film, man. It felt horrific when I saw that parademon popped up. Bam! I was like, God damn it! I got scared shitless. I'm not gonna lie to you. But yeah, Zack Snyder, man. Oh my gosh. Much praise to you, Zack. Here is the scene when they were in the underground passageway between the tunnels between Metropolis and Gotham. That was really awesome as well. When Commissioner Gordon goes and looks at the place where those underground tunnels will be, and he looks back as he's asking the question, and only the Flash is left there. Everybody else is gone. It's so funny. Oh gosh. Oh man. If you think of it in terms of Zack Snyder, it's even funnier. It's really, really funny. So yeah. That's all I got to say about Justice League for now. It's such a nice journey with this movie. It ends that trilogy on such a nice note. Would I love to see a Zack Snyder cut? Absolutely. But we got to get through seeing Justice League first and foremost. Make it through the box office. And so we can get more DCEU films. And then we can talk about anything else you want to talk about. Zack Snyder film, Zack Snyder cut. How much of it was Zack Snyder? What? Blah, blah, blah. You know. Those are trivial right now. We just have to make it over the hurdle, make it over the hump. We need that hope, and this movie is full of that. So, yeah. On that note, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You guys have a great one. Remember, spoiler discussion, possibly Friday. If not Friday, maybe today. Later on today, we'll see. All right. So look out for it. You guys have a good one.